The Sweet Spot Made Easy. Let's start with the title of my latest book, The Sweet Spot, on the obvious, all revealing, yet hiding in plain view. Q. What sweet spot? The sweet spot of what? A. The sweet spot of everything from the beginning of time. Q. What is the sweet spot about? A. Of the world, of course, of the universe of creation. Q. And where can we know about this sweet spot? A. Well, it must be at the very beginning to cover everything and leave nothing out. Q. And how do we go to the very beginning of creation? A. For this, we must rely on the reception of the tradition from the remote origin to the recent past. Aristotle proved the impossibility of returning to the first cause, all the while Moses proved the certainty of originating from that one cause. Q. Could you please explain? Yes. This is where the Torah of Revelation, as continuous, uninterrupted flow, comes to the rescue from the Big Bang to antiquity. That things from the remote origin somehow dovetailed between the collapse of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. Q. Okay, it's about the sweet spot of the world, but where, when, and what is it? A. It could be anything, anytime, and anywhere in the world. The next best thing is to research the narrative. I narrowed it down to the account of creation in Genesis. Q. But in lay terms, what is the sweet spot? A. Our claim is that the sweet spot is, quote, the creator of the creative creature of creation. Q. And how do you arrive at that? A. By induction, by working backwards. The Big Bang of the universe's creation. Creation entails a creator, and together, creator of creation requires a creative creature narrator. Okay, Q. Okay, so much for the title of The Sweet Spot. Now to the subtitle, quote, on the obvious, all revealing, yet hiding in plain view. Let's start with the quote, on the obvious. A. On the obvious means that it's innate in us all like common sense. If you can think, you know already that what's obvious. Q. What about the quote, all revealing? Answer A. The quote, all revealing refers to the revelation of the teaching at Mount Sinai. It was chiseled in our hearts. From get-go, we have all we need to know. Q. And what about the yet, in quote, yet hiding in plain view? A. The yet means that there is a disconnection between our hearts and our minds. Q. And what is the meaning of the quote, hiding in plain view? A. The quote, hiding in plain view stands for the elephant in the room, that our cultural upbringing conditions our being for better and for worse. This is better known as collective oversight. Q. Now, standing on one foot, what is the takeaway of all this? A. In one breath, firing dualism and hiring paradiseism. Q. Could you explain it? Yes. The intention of Moses from the Bronze Age was to start the peace era of paradise. To that end, he left the most obvious solution and placed it where it could not be missed. Unfortunately, the sageists missed the road sign or else hijacked it to serve their own misguided beliefs, values, and interests. This oversight or relapse thrust humanity into the Iron Age of the broader era of dualism. Q. Okay, that makes sense. What you seem to be saying is that we need to start the peace era of paradiseism and leave behind the warring era of dualism. But how so? A. By primeval Kabbalah, by returning to the very beginning and before at Genesis 1:1-11a/Aleph. That is, this is composed of three parts, namely, by the first word of Genesis 1:1a, standing for creation, and by the first letter of Hebrew Aleph, standing for the creator, and with a slash serving to both join as well as to keep separate creation from the creator. Putting it together, we arrive at the quote, creator of the creative creature of creation at Genesis 1:1a Aleph. Okay, Q. Okay, you seem to have proved your point, but what does paradise stand for? A. Paradise is just an acronym formula for the sweet spot. It stands for the one whole S slash is made of triad part DRP. Reading it right to left as in Hebrew, the correspondences are creator S, creative creature slash creation DRP. with this last one of creation DRP unfolding as time d space r mass p, or if you prefer in personal terms, creation DRP unfolding as spirit d mind r body p. Alternatively, in societal terms, creation DRP unfolding as religion d, philosophy r, science p. Q. One last question. How would the Paradise era further peace? Yes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The Paradise application to solve real-life questions. Q. And which are these practical Paradise apps? This is what makes or breaks the argument of this sweet spot. A. I can teach it, but I cannot learn it for you. You must unlearn much of what you've been taught at home and at school. It will help reading my books. Quote, the sweet spot on the obvious, all revealing, yet hiding in plain view, and, quote, saving creation on the baby bang of Paradise civilization. At Amazon in English and Spanish, printed and audible, also digital for 99 cents dollar, 89 cents euro. Additionally, in 5 other languages, but not in audible. Yours truly, Ricardo Turullols-Bonilla.